The Buddha once revealed a timeless truth. With our thoughts, we shape the world. When life feels uncertain and the future seems wrapped in fog, it's often not the outside world that overwhelms us. It's the storm within our own mind. We replay old worries, imagine new fears, and carry the heavy weight of what if. In those moments, the greatest battle isn't out there. It's happening in the silence of our own thoughts. Yet within Buddhist wisdom lies a rare gift for our restless age. The reminder that peace is not something we must hunt for in distant places. It isn't found in possessions, success, or control. Peace is a home within you, a quiet ground that has always been there, waiting, patient, unchanged, only hidden beneath layers of noise. Tonight, we will take a gentle walk along that ancient path. Together, we'll uncover how to breathe with ease again, how to loosen the grip of thoughts, and how to lay down the war against your own mind. So pause for a moment, inhale deeply. This is not just a video, it is your invitation to return home to yourself. 1. Your thoughts are not the whole truth. One of the most liberating insights in Buddhism is this: your mind is not always telling you the truth. Left unchecked, it behaves like a restless monkey, swinging wildly from fear to fear, creating stories stitched together from old wounds and anxious memories. When life grows heavy, these voices inside can feel louder than ever. You may hear whispers like, "I'll never succeed. I'm not enough. Everything is falling apart." But here is the deeper reality. A thought is not a fact. It is simply a habit of the mind, a pattern repeated so often that it begins to sound convincing. Buddhist practice invites us to step back and become the witness rather than the prisoner of these thoughts. Instead of being dragged into every dark scenario the mind paints, you learn to notice them, calmly, gently, like clouds moving across the sky. Some appear heavy with storm, others light as morning mist, but none of them define the sky itself. You are that vast sky. You are the open space of awareness, untouched and unshaken, no matter how many clouds pass by. The thoughts are temporary visitors. You are the unchanging host. So when a wave of fear or doubt arrives, you can say softly, "This is only a thought. It is not who I am. It is not the whole truth." Then breathe, let it pass, and return to the stillness beneath. This simple practice of mindfulness is like sitting by a roaring river without being swept away by its current. The more you recognize thoughts as fleeting, the less control they hold over you. And in that space, a quiet strength begins to grow, one that no passing cloud, no storm of the mind can ever erase. 2. Stay rooted in the present, not in predictions. Much of our suffering begins the moment we abandon the present and wander into the imagined future. The mind spins restless questions. What if I lose it all? What if I fail? What if I can't endure what's coming? These thoughts don't arise from reality. They come from predictions, from mental stories about a tomorrow that hasn't even arrived. Buddhism offers a gentle reminder. The future is only a shadow in the mind. It has not yet taken form. The only life you ever truly touch is the one unfolding in this very breath, in this very moment. Here, in the now, is your refuge. This is where your lungs rise and fall. This is where your body rests. This is where peace waits patiently. And when you anchor yourself to this moment, even for a few breaths, you notice something profound. You are safe. You are alive. Nothing is missing in this instant. Worry, then, is rarely about what is. It is almost always about what might be. The mind plays its endless movie of what ifs, but those scenes are not happening here. Most will never happen at all. Instead of trying to predict or control the future, practice the return to now. This is the essence of mindfulness. Feel the rhythm of your breath. Listen to the quiet sounds around you. Notice the sensation of your body resting in this space. When fear begins to spiral, Ask yourself, what is truly happening right now? Am I safe in this breath? Can I meet this moment with one mindful inhale? Each time you do, you step out of the storm of imagination and into the stillness of reality. The truth is, you don't need to map out the next 5 steps. You only need to take the next breath. And in that single breath, the nervous system softens, the heart unclenches, and the soul remembers how to rest. Peace begins here, not in tomorrow's prediction, but in today's presence. 3. You cannot control everything, but you can control this. One of the greatest roots of stress is our longing for control. We want life to follow our plan, people to behave as we expect, and every effort to lead to the success we imagine. But reality rarely unfolds according to our design. The sky shifts without our permission. People break promises. Carefully built plans collapse overnight. Unexpected challenges arrive at the door when we least expect them. And with each disruption, we feel powerless, frustrated, or afraid. Buddhist wisdom offers a liberating truth. The attempt to control everything is itself a source of suffering. Why? Because control is an illusion. The tighter we grasp, the more life slips away, like sand running through a clenched fist. True peace doesn't come from bending the outside world to our will. It arises from mastering the world within. And here, you do have power. You can guide your breath. You can shape your response. You can choose your mindset, your energy, your presence. No one can stop the storm, but you can learn to stand in the rain with calm. No one can silence every harsh word, but you can refuse to let bitterness seep into your heart. You cannot guarantee tomorrow's victories, but you can give your best effort today and release the outcome with grace. In Buddhism, this steady way of being is called equanimity, a balanced mind that remains unshaken even in chaos. It doesn't mean indifference, and it doesn't mean giving up. It means shifting your energy from forcing control to responding wisely. When anger is thrown at you, you can choose silence and breath over reaction. When your plans unravel, you can choose to trust that life may be opening a new path. When uncertainty clouds your vision, you can choose trust over panic. This practice is not easy, but with time, it reveals a quiet power. Not the power to rule the world, but the power to remain free from it. So when your heart begins to race with worry, remind yourself gently, I do not need to control everything. I only need to choose how I respond. That is where your true strength lives. That is where worry dissolves. And that is where freedom begins. 4. Even your hardest days became your teachers. It's natural to look back on the darkest chapters of life and wish they had never happened. Those nights of loss, heartbreak, failure, or disappointment can leave you feeling fractured, abandoned, and unsure if light will ever return. But within Buddhist wisdom lies a deeper truth. None of those painful moments were wasted. They were shaping you, carving out strength, compassion, and understanding that could not have been born in comfort. Picture a seed buried beneath heavy soil. At first, it feels only pressure, darkness, and struggle. The weight may even cause it to crack. Yet without that resistance, the seed could never break open. It is precisely the burden of the earth that awakens its hidden power to reach upward toward the sun. Your most difficult days worked the same way. They pressed hard against you, but in that pressure, resilience began to grow. Each encounter with grief, fear, or anger forced you to look deeply into yourself. At times, you may have wanted to run, to blame, or to surrender. Yet when you chose instead to face the pain, to sit with it rather than escape it, something extraordinary unfolded. You discovered your own ability to heal. You found hidden reserves of courage. You realized that even when powerless, you still had choices. The choice to breathe, to endure, to continue forward. In Buddhist practice, this alchemy of transforming hardship into wisdom is known as turning poison into medicine. What once felt destructive becomes the very ingredient that nurtures growth, empathy, and inner peace. Those dark seasons also left behind gifts: humility, because you learned you cannot control all things; compassion, because you now recognize suffering in others; patience, because you saw that true healing moves slowly; and gratitude, because emerging from the storm taught you to see life's simplest blessings with clearer eyes. So when you're tempted to curse the past or resent the pain you carried, pause and remember. Every struggle was a stepping stone. Without the shadows, peace would not shine as brightly. Without failures, success would feel hollow. Without the valleys, the peaks would lose their meaning. Honor your history, not as an enemy, but as a teacher. Bow gently to the lessons, even the sharp ones. For in Buddhism, suffering is never just suffering. It is also an invitation to awaken to your strength, to your compassion, and to the unshakable calm that has always lived within you. 5. Not everything deserves a reaction. When life tests you through insults, setbacks, or even your own self-doubt, the natural impulse is to react. Someone speaks harshly, and before you realize it, sharp words leave your lips. A plan falls apart, and your chest fills with panic. A mistake surfaces, and shame begins its familiar whisper. This is the way most of us are conditioned, to respond instantly without reflection. But Buddhism teaches something profoundly liberating. Every reaction carries a cost. Every time you surrender to anger, anxiety, or resentment, you spend a piece of your peace. And if you give away too much, soon there is nothing left but exhaustion. Imagine for a moment that your mind is a still, glass-like lake. When a pebble lands upon its surface, ripples spread outward. But in time, the water returns to calm. Now picture that same lake already disturbed by wind and storm. Even the smallest pebble sends chaotic waves across its surface. Your mind works the same way. If it is restless, crowded with worries and unhealed emotions, the tiniest disturbance, a rude comment, a delayed email, a small inconvenience, creates an inner storm. But if your mind is cultivated in stillness, these same disturbances arrive and dissolve without shaking your core. This doesn't mean passivity. It doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent. Rather, it means learning to pause, to create a sacred space between what happens to you and how you respond. In that pause lives wisdom. In that pause lives freedom. When someone criticizes you, your first impulse may be to strike back or retreat in silence. But if you pause, breathe, and observe the rising tide of anger or hurt without clinging to it, you may realize the insult was not about you at all. Often people speak from their own pain, projecting wounds they have not healed. Why should you allow their suffering to dictate your peace? Think about daily frustrations, a long line at the grocery store, a careless driver cutting you off, a notification that interrupts your focus. These moments may be annoying, but they are not worth handing over your serenity. Reacting with clenched fists, shallow breaths, and racing thoughts only means you suffer twice, once from the event and once from your reaction to it. Buddhism calls us to practice mindful awareness. Notice the tightening in your chest, the heat of irritation, the rush of adrenaline. See it as it is, without judgment. Then whisper to yourself, "This is only a passing moment. I do not need to give it all of me." And what about the inner critic, that relentless voice inside that says, "You're not good enough. You'll never succeed." If you react by spiraling into shame, the voice grows louder. But if you meet it as you would meet a passing stranger, with recognition but without attachment, it loses its grip. A thought, after all, is not the truth. It is only a sound arising in the mind, disappearing as quickly as it came. Not every cloud deserves to be chased across the sky. Not every wave needs to be fought. Reactions are like chasing illusions. You exhaust yourself, and in the end, you hold nothing. Instead, begin small. The next time anger swells, place a hand over your heart and breathe deeply 3 times. Tell yourself softly, "I see you, anger. I feel you, tension. but I do not need to act on you right now. This gentle practice interrupts the chain of reaction and begins to rewrite the habit of your mind. Over time, this pause becomes your natural way of being, and you'll notice something profound. Life does not stop being chaotic. People will still disappoint, plans will still collapse, news will still arrive uninvited. But you stop being tossed about like a leaf in the wind. You discover a steady ground within you that does not shift with every passing storm. The Buddha taught that discernment is true wisdom, knowing what deserves your energy and what does not. When you master the art of not reacting to every impulse, you preserve your strength for what truly matters: compassion, love, presence, and inner freedom. So the next time life throws pebbles, or even stones, into your stillness, remember, you are the lake, not the ripple. You are the vastness, not the disturbance. Protect your peace, because not everything deserves the power of your reaction. 6. Transforming obstacles into pathways of growth. When life places obstacles in your way, the first instinct is often frustration. You might feel cornered, asking yourself questions like, why me? Why now? Why this? A heartbreak might shatter your confidence, a job loss may shake your sense of security, or an unexpected illness may strip away your strength. In those moments, the mind often paints problems as enemies, forces that interrupt your journey, walls that block your dreams, reminders that life is not unfolding according to your plan. But Buddhism offers a different way of seeing. The obstacle is not the end of your path. The obstacle is the path. What appears to be a dead end is often the very beginning of transformation, carrying within it seeds of wisdom, resilience, and awakening that you could not have discovered otherwise. Life is not meant to be a smooth, straight road. It is more like a vast forest, filled with winding trails, sudden storms, and hidden clearings. Sometimes the path is gentle and open, and your steps feel light. Other times you encounter thorns, heavy branches, or steep climbs. And when those difficulties appear, you have two choices. You can resist, curse the forest, and turn back in despair, or you can lean into the challenge, trusting that within the struggle lies something of value, something that will reveal a deeper part of yourself. Imagine walking through such a forest on a quiet morning. The sunlight filters softly through the leaves, the birdsong is soothing, and the way feels effortless. Then, without warning, a giant tree has fallen across your path. At first you feel stuck, convinced that your journey has ended. You might even grow angry at the unfairness of it. But instead of turning back, you decide to look closer. Crawling under the branches, you find a small opening that leads you to a hidden clearing. There, a stream shimmers in the sunlight. Wildflowers bloom in colors you've never seen, and the air feels alive with freshness. What you thought was an ending turned out to be a new beginning. The obstacle did not stop you. It revealed a deeper way forward. This is how Buddhism invites us to approach difficulties. A broken relationship, a financial setback, an illness, a failure. None of them are punishments. They are invitations. They redirect us, reshape us, and help us discover strengths and truths we might otherwise never see. The Buddha described this process as turning poison into medicine. Poison, left unattended, will harm you. But with awareness, the very substance that once poisoned your life becomes the medicine that heals. In the same way, hardships can either remain as wounds that fester, or they can be transformed into the very force that awakens your compassion, your humility, and your inner strength. When a relationship ends, it is easy to see it as wasted time or proof of failure. Yet within the pain, there may be lessons about compassion, about honoring boundaries, or about remembering your own worth. When a career collapses, it may feel like the ground has disappeared beneath your feet. But perhaps in that silence, you uncover talents you had forgotten or passions you had buried. What seemed like ruin becomes a redirection towards something more authentic. When illness arrives, it strips away illusions of control, forcing you to see life's fragile beauty. And in that awareness, gratitude awakens. for the breath you can still take, for the people who care for you, for the simple miracle of being alive in this moment. Suffering is not meaningless. It is a mirror. It shows you what you cling to, what you resist, and what you fear most. Ask yourself, when pain strikes, why does this hurt so deeply? Is it because you were holding too tightly to an outcome, believing happiness could only come one way? Is it because you resisted change, trying to freeze life in place? Or is it because you expected certainty in a world that is always shifting? Often, the pain comes not from the event itself, but from our refusal to accept what is. And once you see that, once you recognize the grip, it begins to loosen. The Buddha himself did not run from suffering. When faced with the deepest questions of life and death, he did not search for quick distractions or force hasty answers. He sat beneath the Bodhi tree in silence, watching reality as it unfolded. That silence, that willingness to face what is, became the doorway to his awakening. In the same way, you too can pause when faced with challenges. Instead of immediately reacting with despair, instead of believing every fearful story your mind invents, you can breathe. In that breath, you create space. And in that space, you can ask, is there another way to see this? Could this difficulty be guiding me towards something I cannot yet see? This pause transforms panic into curiosity. Fear becomes inquiry. Resistance becomes openness. And when you shift in this way, the entire nature of the problem begins to change. You stop seeing it as a punishment and begin to see it as a teacher. Instead of resisting life's storms, you begin to study them. And every storm, no matter how dark, has something to teach. Life is impermanent. Nothing stays the same. Joy and sorrow rise and fall, like waves on the same ocean. If you fight the waves, you only exhaust yourself. But if you learn to flow with them, even the turbulence carries you forward. Your struggles refine you. They stretch your patience, expand your compassion, and reveal your hidden strength. They show you that you can bend without breaking, that you can endure loss without losing yourself, and that you can walk through uncertainty with grace. Even when life feels unbearable, when grief, illness, or failure weigh heavily, you can walk forward with the knowledge that every step, however painful, is shaping the person you are becoming. Over time, this practice of reframing problems becomes second nature. You stop expecting life to always be easy, and instead, you seek to be awake. You stop asking, why me? And start asking, what can this teach me? Challenges no longer paralyze you. Instead, they become the very ground upon which you practice awareness and compassion. Worry begins to lose its grip because you are no longer consumed by the need to escape discomfort. Instead, you face it directly, learning from it, growing with it. What once looked like a closed door reveals itself as a doorway to growth. What you thought was rejection becomes redirection. What you feared would break you becomes the very force that builds your resilience. This is the transformation at the heart of Buddhist wisdom, the realization that every obstacle, no matter how painful, holds within it the seeds of awakening. So the next time you encounter a struggle, pause. Do not see it only as a wall. See it as an invitation. Ask yourself, what path might this challenge be showing me? What wisdom could be waiting here, hidden in the difficulty? Because in the end, obstacles are not interruptions of the path. They are the path itself. And the more you walk through them with awareness, the more you will discover that every trial, every hardship, every moment of suffering has been guiding you not away from yourself, but back home to the deepest truth within you. 7. Faith as the antidote to fear. Fear has a way of tightening its grip whenever life feels uncertain. Imagine standing at the edge of a dark forest at night. The path disappears into the shadows, and you cannot see what lies ahead. Your mind begins to whisper, what if there are wild animals? What if I get lost? What if something terrible happens? Even before you take a single step, your body fills with anxiety, your heart races, and you feel paralyzed. This is how fear works. It thrives in the unknown. It feeds on the gaps in your knowledge by creating terrifying stories in your imagination. Yet Buddhism offers a profound antidote to this crippling fear: faith. But not blind faith, not naive belief. In the Pali language, this quality is called saddha. It is better understood as inner confidence, a quiet trust that grows not from wishful thinking, but from lived experience. Faith in this sense is not the denial of uncertainty. It is the strength to move forward, even when the whole path is not visible. When life darkens your outlook and the weight of the unknown feels unbearable, faith becomes like a lantern you carry in the dark forest. It may not illuminate the entire road ahead, but it gives you enough light to take the next step. And when you can take one step, you realize you can take another. Fear often arises because the mind is trying to predict what it cannot control. You ask yourself, what if I fail? What if I lose everything? What if my worst fears come true? These questions project frightening futures onto a blank screen. In truth, these futures are no more than mental movies, dramas created by imagination. The Buddha taught that much of our suffering comes not from what is real, but from the stories we tell ourselves. Fear is often nothing more than sitting in the theater of your own mind, watching a horror film that you wrote, directed, and produced. Faith steps in to quiet this restless projection. Faith says, you don't need to know the ending before you begin. You don't need certainty to take the next breath, the next step, the next act of courage. So how do we build this kind of faith? Buddhism shows us that faith grows from real experience, not from motivational slogans or empty reassurances. Think back to the darkest seasons of your life. Perhaps you faced an illness you did not expect, a relationship that ended in heartbreak, or financial struggles that left you awake at night. In those moments you felt broken, unsure if you would ever recover. And yet, you did. Maybe you discovered resilience you didn't know you had. Maybe a friend or even a stranger offered kindness. Maybe life unfolded in a way you couldn't have predicted, and you found yourself standing again. These moments are evidence. They are proof that you have faced uncertainty before and found a way through. By remembering them, you water the seed of faith. If I made it through then, I can trust myself to face what comes now. This is not blind optimism. It is memory transformed into strength. Another way faith grows is by recognizing the truth of impermanence, or anicca. Everything changes. Storms always pass. Joy comes and goes, and so does sorrow. Even the sharpest pain cannot last forever. When you realize that your fear, no matter how strong, is not permanent, you stop treating it as absolute truth. You remember, this too will pass. Just as the seasons change, just as night always turns to day, your present difficulties will eventually shift. Knowing this, you no longer need to fear that your current struggle is eternal. But faith is not something we cultivate alone. It also grows in community. From the very beginning of Buddhism, practitioners gathered to share teachings, to support one another, and to remind each other that no one walks the path alone. In the early Sanghas, the Buddhist communities, people found strength in listening to each other's stories. One person's victory over hardship planted hope in the hearts of others. Even today, you can find this same encouragement. When you hear of monks who remained calm in crisis, or ordinary people who turned pain into compassion, you realize, if they could endure, perhaps I can too. Their example strengthens your own faith. It whispers to you that transformation is possible not just for saints or sages, but for you. Faith in Buddhism is not passive. It is not waiting for miracles while doing nothing. It must be paired with effort. Every time you take a mindful breath, every time you sit in meditation, every time you pause before reacting in anger, you are strengthening the muscle of faith. You are proving to yourself, I can meet this moment with presence. I can meet this fear without collapsing. Even a single breath taken with awareness can become an act of faith. Imagine fear rising in your chest, your heart racing. Instead of surrendering to panic, you close your eyes and breathe, slowly, deliberately. That breath becomes a declaration. I trust this moment. I trust myself. I trust that clarity is possible. Over time, such small acts weave together, creating an unshakable inner confidence. Faith also requires surrender, not the surrender of giving up, but the surrender of control. Much of fear comes from trying to manage what cannot be managed. We want certainty in relationships, success in careers, security in health. But the truth is, life is unpredictable. Faith does not erase this unpredictability. It allows you to stand calmly in the middle of it. It is the willingness to walk through the forest even when you cannot see the end of the trail, trusting that step by step you will find your way. Perhaps the most beautiful part of faith is that it transforms fear not by destroying it, but by coexisting with it. You do not need to wait for fear to disappear before moving forward. You simply carry faith alongside it. Fear may whisper, "You cannot do this." Faith replies softly, "Yes, you can. Just one step, just one breath." In this way, fear loses its power. It may still arise, but it no longer controls you. And over time, you realize that faith was never something outside of you. It was always the quiet strength within, the part of you that has carried you through every trial so far. So the next time fear rises in your mind, remember this teaching. Fear thrives in uncertainty, but faith thrives there too. Where fear imagines the worst, faith reminds you that you have already survived so much and you are stronger than you think. Where fear says, "Don't take the step," faith places the lantern in your hand and says, "Go on. You don't need to see the whole path. Just trust the next step." Because in the end, faith is not about escaping fear. It is about learning to walk with fear and still move forward. It is about remembering that storms always pass, that help is always near, and that within you lives a strength that no fear can erase. Final wisdom: how to return to peace. Every moment you choose mindfulness instead of panic, every time you pause before reacting, every time you take a breath instead of collapsing into fear, you are building a bridge. At first, this bridge between fear and faith may feel fragile, like a narrow rope stretched across a canyon. It sways with every gust of doubt. But with practice, with patience, that bridge grows stronger. Day by day, step by step, it becomes so steady that fear can no longer push you off course. You begin to realize something profound. Fear may still visit, but it no longer commands your life. When uncertainty appears, as it always does, faith changes the way you meet it. Instead of seeing fear as an enemy to conquer, you begin to see it as a teacher, a messenger pointing toward the areas of life where greater trust, wisdom, or acceptance is needed. Fear is not always a curse. It can be a lantern showing you where you still hold on too tightly, where you still resist, where you still doubt your own strength. The next time fear rises in your chest, try asking yourself, what is this fear trying to teach me? Sometimes the lesson is hidden beneath layers of thought. Maybe it reveals an attachment to control, to certainty, to the approval of others. Maybe it points to an old wound, an insecurity that still lingers in the shadows. Or maybe, beneath the surface, fear uncovers a forgotten dream, a longing you buried long ago because you were too afraid to pursue it. Faith allows you to meet these discoveries with curiosity instead of avoidance. Without faith, fear feels unbearable, so you run, hide, or numb yourself with distractions. With faith, you lean in, you listen, you learn. You begin to see that fear is not always a wall, but a doorway. On the other side may be a deeper meaning, a truer connection, or a chance to live in harmony with your most authentic values. Think about this. Beneath the fear of failure may lie a longing for growth. Beneath the fear of loss may live a deep desire for love. Beneath the fear of uncertainty may rest a yearning for freedom. Fear is rarely the final layer. If you look closely, it often guards the very treasure you seek. This is why faith becomes the antidote. Not because it magically erases every anxious thought, but because it changes your relationship to those thoughts. With faith, you learn to say, yes, fear is here, but it does not have to decide for me. You can notice fear, acknowledge its presence, and still choose to take the next step. You trust that each mindful breath, each conscious choice, will provide the clarity you need in the moment. Over time, as your faith deepens, something remarkable begins to happen. Fear does not vanish completely. No human being escapes it entirely, but it loses its ability to freeze you. Instead of stopping you, it nudges you. It becomes less of a chain and more of a reminder. Gather your strength. Remember your courage. Trust the path. Faith reframes fear from being a signal of danger to being a signal of growth. Where you once said, "I cannot go there," you now say, "Perhaps this is exactly where I need to walk." Returning to peace, then, is not about escaping fear. It is about befriending it, learning from it, and carrying faith as a steady companion. In moments when life feels overwhelming, remind yourself, I do not need to see the entire path. I only need enough light for this step. That step, taken in faith, is always enough. There is a teaching in Buddhism that illustrates this beautifully. Imagine walking through a dark cave carrying only a candle. The candle does not reveal the entire cave, only the ground a few feet in front of you. But as you take each step, the light moves forward with you, always illuminating what you need to see. This is faith. You don't need to know the whole journey. You only need trust for the step in front of you. And each step, taken in presence, becomes its own form of peace. When you practice returning to peace, you may begin to notice subtle shifts in your life. Conversations that once triggered anxiety lose their sharpness. Problems that once felt unbearable now feel manageable. And worries that once consumed your nights transform into opportunities for reflection. Peace does not come because the world has stopped being chaotic. Peace comes because you have stopped reacting with chaos inside yourself. Mindfulness is the tool that makes this possible. Every time you catch yourself spinning in fear and gently return to your breath, you are weaving a new pattern into your mind. Slowly, the old habits of panic weaken, and new habits of calm awareness take their place. The bridge between fear and faith grows stronger, wider, unshakable. It is important to remember that peace is not a final destination. It is a practice. Some days you will feel steady, other days the storm will return. But with faith, you know the storm is temporary. You know you have walked through storms before and found the calm again. And this memory gives you the courage to trust that you will do it again. In this way, fear becomes less terrifying. It becomes like a familiar visitor. When it knocks on your door, you no longer slam it shut in panic. Instead, you open the door, greet it, and ask, "What do you want me to see today?" Then, with faith, you walk forward, carrying the lesson, leaving the fear behind. So how do you return to peace in your daily life? Begin simply. When fear arises, place a hand over your heart. Feel the warmth of your own touch. Breathe in slowly, breathe out gently. Whisper to yourself, "This fear is not permanent. This fear is not me. I can still choose peace in this moment." These small acts are not insignificant. They are the foundation of faith. And as you repeat them, day after day, something extraordinary unfolds. Fear stops being the master of your life. Faith takes its place. Peace returns, not as something you must chase in the outside world, but as something you carry within you. Remember this: fear will always exist in some form, but it does not have to rule you. You are stronger than the shadows of your imagination. You are more resilient than the stories of your mind. And within you, there is a peace that no storm can ever destroy. When you feel overwhelmed, return to your breath. When your heart feels heavy, return to your faith. When your mind feels restless, return to your awareness. In these simple acts lies the doorway back to peace. Because true peace is not about escaping life. It is about meeting life with trust. It is about walking into the dark forest, candle in hand, knowing that though you cannot see the end of the path, each step is enough. Faith gives you the courage to walk. Mindfulness gives you the clarity to see. And together they bring you home, to the peace that was always waiting inside you. Conclusion. As we reach the end of this journey, remember that every lesson we've explored points to one simple truth. Peace is never lost. It is only forgotten. Your thoughts may rise like storms, your circumstances may shift like seasons, and your fears may whisper countless stories. But beneath it all, there is a stillness within you that no storm can uproot. Buddhism teaches us that suffering itself can become the path, obstacles can become teachers, and fear can be transformed into faith. Every time you pause to breathe instead of panic, every time you choose awareness over reaction, every time you meet uncertainty with trust instead of despair, you return to that stillness. Slowly, step by step, you are building a life anchored in wisdom, resilience, and inner peace. And here's the most important part. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to know the ending of the story. You only need to trust this moment, this breath, this step. Because the path is revealed one step at a time, and the light you carry will always be enough to guide you forward. If these teachings have touched your heart, I invite you to carry them into your own life. Reflect on them when worry arises. Practice them when fear whispers. And if this message brought you even a moment of calm, consider sharing it with someone who may need the same reminder tonight. And if you'd like to continue walking this path with me, exploring the wisdom of Buddhism, uncovering peace within chaos, and learning how to live with more clarity and compassion, please remember to subscribe to this channel. Your presence here is part of this journey, and together we create a space of peace in a world that often forgets it. So take one last deep breath with me. Inhale calm, exhale worry. Carry this peace with you, and remember, you are stronger than your fear, softer than your suffering, and wiser than you realize. Until next time, may you be well, may you be peaceful, and may you be free.